Coming up on today's Cowboys Report, we'll break down one of the rookies that nobody's really talking about, at least not relative to the other rookies in this class and more from a national perspective. Before we get to that, how do you feel about this Cowboys rookie class as we get closer and closer to the start of training camp for Dallas? Give it a grade/rating, A, B, C, D, or F in the comments. We're going to focus on 6th-round rookie Ryan Flournoy, the rookie out of Southeast Missouri State, who's not really getting a ton of buzz. There's been a handful of more fantasy-focused people that have given him some love. The occasional local Cowboys beat writers giving him some love with the, we can go all in and go with the baby Dez comps if we want. Not Dez. He's not as big as Dez Bryant was. But I do think of really focusing more on your day 3 players. Flournoy does have the chance to flash and impress. Cowboys had 8 draft picks this year. We just spent a lot of time on Tyler Guyton, a lot of time on Marshawn Nealon, the 2nd-round pick. Cooper Beebe's going to fight for a starting role. I think Maurice Liufau has kind of gotten some buzz as well from a more Cowboys-specific perspective, so we'll leave him off the list. I don't know if Kalen Carson's going to play. I almost made this Justin Rogers, but I wanted to go with the receiver instead. The Cowboys have a great wide receiver 1, wanted to pay CeeDee Lamb. A solid enough 2/3 if we include the tight end in that conversation and Brandon Cooks. And then some uncertainty beyond that. The hope is that Jalen Tolbert can emerge as a viable wide receiver 3. And make no mistake, I think it's a better outcome if Tolbert wins that wide receiver 3 spot over others that have on this roster later round picks because the Cowboys invested more in Tolbert. There's more quote-unquote perceived talent. I think Kevontae Turpin is more of a gadget, special team, change of pace, slot receiver. He's not a real outside threat. Other receivers on this roster, and Jalen Brooks, David Durden, Jalen Cropper, former UDFA's Racing McMath's a special teamer. Maybe Jalen Brooks can flash. He's a slightly bigger body at 6'1", 201. He's also not the same caliber of athlete. And I do think that matters when it comes to our conversation on Ryan Flournoy. That is a different type of wide receiver. They don't have a lot of speed on this roster. Outside of Kevontae Turpin, Brandon Cooks, who are smaller guys, there's not a lot of 4.4 speed or even sub 4.5 speed on this team. Ryan Flournoy does offer that. Now, step number 1 for him, to not get too far ahead of ourselves, is to actually make the roster. Historically speaking, the Cowboys draft picks do just that. So will he make the Cowboys roster this season? Y for yes, N for no. Let's talk some strengths here of Ryan Flournoy. Number 1, kind of what I just mentioned. This is an ideal size-speed combination player. Flournoy is a large human being at wide receiver. Not the biggest, but he's got good size. He's over 6 foot. He's almost 6'1". We're talking a fraction of inches there. 202 in terms of the weight. Big hands, solid enough arm length as well. The vert, the broad jump were crazy impressive. The 4.44 speed is really good. That's one of the faster wide receivers on this Cowboys roster, especially once you factor in the fact that he's got several inches on guys like Brandon Cooks and Kevontae Turpin. The Cowboys haven't really had this type of vertical threat profile on the roster. Yeah, Cooks could go downfield, and Gallup was able to win some contested catches downfield, but that taller burner hasn't really been on this team. Flournoy has the profile to do that. He's also got fantastic hands. 1 drop this past year at Southeast Missouri State, 3 last season, a 3.2% career rate. That's a good combination when you're big, fast, and can catch the football. It's not everything, but it's a lot of the boxes you're trying to check. He also offers some intriguing after-the-catch ability. Now, you're playing at the FCS, SEMO, you got to be dominant, right? So you should have that after-the-catch ability. 7.5 average and 6.6 the last 2 years. 24 forced missed tackles in the 2023 campaign. That's really good. That's being able to do something with the ball in your hands after the catch, which CeeDee Lamb can do. The list is not the longest beyond that for the Cowboys. Sometimes Cooks can do it. Sometimes Turpin can do it, but they're not big guys necessarily. Flournoy offers that extra boost. And the production was solid. Not a 10,000 yards, but he was big play threat, touchdowns, long, some big chunk plays there. When you have that size-speed combo after catchability and quality hands, you can see why there's a lot of intrigue in him, or for him, I should say. So assuming he makes the roster again, I think he does. Cowboys love to get their draft picks on the roster. How many catches will Ryan Flournoy have this season? Zero is a viable answer, too. Sound off in the comments. The weaknesses. Why was he available on day 3, Tom? He is an older, small school prospect. And that is a combination that not just me, but also most of the NFL gets a little bit anxious about. He's going to be 25 years old in November. When that rookie contract wraps up, he's going to be in his late 20s. So you're kind of, in theory, cutting down on your normal development time. Big development jump comes often in the early 20s. Well, we're kind of already past that phase. Like, he's an older guy beating up on lesser competition. That is a red flag. He also lacks special teams value. 16 career special team snaps per PFF is not many. It's not a vastly impactful thing. I don't think he's going to be a return specialist. If you're not a gunner and you're not at least a receiver 3, it's tough to find an active roster spot for you. He also tore his right ACL twice, 2019 and 2021. And as good of an athlete as he is, he didn't do the agility testing. And that's normally an underlying, he wasn't going to test that great agility-wise, but the after-catch ability does kind of not make that as big of a concern for me. I am fully anticipating some big plays from Flournoy in the preseason. We will be live for every Cowboys preseason game, even the 10 p.m. one, which that's going to stink, but we'll be here for it. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button right now. Some other draft grades, or my draft grades, I should say, for Flournoy. Obviously, he went 216. That was right in the range for him. I had him as a late 6th, early 7th round pick. It's exactly where he went. He was my number 32 ranked wide receiver, 235 overall. Don't take my word for it. Dane Brugler, who is better than me at this, after all, had him 208, number 29 overall, a straight 6th round grade as well. Here's what Dane Brugler wrote on Flournoy. A member of Bruce Feldman's Freaks List, Flournoy is a terrific height, weight, speed athlete and got the nickname Super in college for his feats in the weight room and on the field. But he struggles to set up breaks and will often lead coverage to his destination, so route running issues. He's excelled against inferior competition, but also held his own against 2 FBS opponents, combined for 13 catches for 152 yards against Kansas State and Iowa State. Overall, Flournoy is a more athletic and skilled as a route runner, and quarterbacks stick to him at the break point. But he has a large accepting hands with balance and body control before, during, and after the catch. He projects as an NFL rotational receiver who can earn playing time with further development. In terms of making a year 1 impact, putting Ryan Flournoy here is a fairly big projection. But I bet he flashes in the preseason. I remember Trey Lance going out there throwing a deep bomb to Danny Gray early on. Why can't Flournoy do that in this year's preseason? I do worry about that older developmental prospect. That track record is a little bit harder to find and hit on the gem. But I've heard great things about Flournoy's work ethic, which I do think matters a lot when you're young and when you're trying to endear yourself to a coaching staff. I am looking forward to watching Flournoy play this year, because especially in the preseason, because I think that height, weight, speed profile is something this Cowboys team has been lacking. I think you need juice in the modern-day NFL. Teams still crave explosive plays. The Cowboys have one incredible explosive playmaker in CeeDee Lamb, sometimes from Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson. I want another one in the passing game. I don't know if Tolbert's ever going to be that player. He kind of reminded me of Michael Gallup coming out, funnily enough. So I want to see Flournoy get his chances in camp in the preseason. My early prediction, every year we fall in love with one of those wide receivers, the pet cat, that sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. I think Ryan Flournoy is going to be the receiver we're getting ourselves hyped about early on in training camp this season. That is the end of today's video. We haven't done this in a while, but if you made it to the end, first off, thank you. Appreciate you watching the entirety of today's show. If you made it to the end, spam DC4L in the comments section.